It's not who specifically owns the AI generated content. The bigger question often is if the AI system creates something. Let's say you did put a lot of effort into using the AI system to generate something.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the content that's produced is very similar to a third-party copyrighted item. So would you still have ownership of this, or would this output itself be infringing the third-party IP?
Welcome to the What I Think podcast, where we uncover the stories of innovators and leaders shaping our world. Today, we have an extraordinary guest creating a tsunami of change in the legal and tech landscapes, Mr. Charles To. A recent graduate of Kellogg HKUST MBA program, Charles is a partner and head of the corporate, commercial, and TMT practice of a Hong Kong-based law firm specializing in technology, intellectual property, and blockchain. Previously, he served as senior legal counsel for Tencent and Fox networks, navigating the fast-paced worlds of music, video, and mobile gaming. Not just a legal expert, Charles is also a passionate advisor and investor in startups like Cupital and Sandbox VR. Plus, he's committed to giving back, serving on key committees, and is the chairman of the Thedos Foundation in Hong Kong, honorary life vice president of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University Foundation, and a founding board member of Hong Kong PropTech Association. In 2022, Charles was also recognized as a legal leader by LexisNexis 40 Under 40. Charles has also been named among the visionaries in the A-List 2024-2025 by China Business Law Journal. This season is proudly sponsored by Sideshow Tea, fueling our conversations with premium single origin tea infused with sparkling water. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Derek.
Firstly, what I ask all my guests is, what is artificial intelligence?
I would say, without giving the typical definition, I try to put it more in layman terms. I would say it's really using computing power and design to do things what you ordinarily would think a human being would do. Mm-hmm. So thinking like a human, how you could, that's real artificial intelligence, as opposed to back in days, 10, 20 years, it's more computer automation. Now it's really reaching the stage where if you're communicating with AI, you may actually have a lot of difficulties in telling whether it's a human or whether it's AI.
One of the things I want to take on is understanding the ownership of AI-generated work. Who owns the rights, especially in this age where people creating left and right things that have been based on the past?
We could explore that in different manners.
Mm-hmm.
One is whether it's a person or legal entity that owns it, or whether it's the AI system that owns it itself. So I would say in most jurisdictions, that is still not 100% settled. I would say globally, the general consensus is that a computer system itself, the AI, could not own intellectual property. So it has to be a human being or a corporate entity. Breaking that down, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's let's say if you're using ChatGPT,
yeah.
Whether it's ChatGPT like OpenAI that owns it, or whether it's the user that owns it, that you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, especially on which AI platform you use, looking at the terms and conditions. So let's say for OpenAI in general, is that as between OpenAI and the user would own the generated content.
Right. So if I use like AI to aid me in creating something, it's still mine, even if it's through my company or myself. That's generally the case, but I guess there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
Would you say like in Asia, it's more stringent compared to like the US or Europe?
I would say there isn't actually much difference between the different countries in this aspect. Without delving into a lot of case law, as we previously chatted about, because this topic itself could become a 3-hour seminar.
Yeah.
Let's say most case laws, except for some in mainland China, is that the general position for copyright on using AI is that there has to be an element of human input, a creative element. So it can't be the fact where you just type in one line of text, a prompt, and it generates all the content. There is very minimal human intervention, human creativity in that. It would be difficult for the user to claim that it has copyright ownership. But if there was a lot of input from the user, for example, even if it was through prompting, if you went through 10, 20 iterative prompting, improve this particular area, the user in that case would be a lot more likely to have copyright ownership.
Have there been some major, let's say, major cases or major?
It's still on appeal, so that's not definite.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been very minor cases. They've decided by smaller courts, but I won't say they're landmark enough for the audience to really be confident in that, yes, this is the legal position. One aspect of copyright ownership. Yeah. The more interesting and challenging one is not who specifically owns the AI generated content. The bigger question often is if the AI system creates something. Let's say you did put a lot of effort into using the AI system to generate something. Yeah. But it turns out that the content that's produced is very similar to a third-party copyrighted item. So would you still have ownership of this, or would this output itself be infringing the third-party IP? So to give you like a more concrete example, if you were to use the AI system and say, generate a image of a cartoon character based on the image of Mickey Mouse. Yeah. And it generates something very similar to Mickey Mouse. It's very, very likely that Disney would come after you for copyright infringement. And it would be difficult for you to say, oh, I generated using AI. Because part of it is the AI system may have actually, in the black box, learned from images that is copyrighted by Disney.
So they would have some sort of grounds.
Yes, I think a very strong ground.
Very strong grounds. Wow. Okay. In that case, like how do you stop that? Like, how does it become where they can, someone can drag it out, or is that something that's easily like kind of rectified?
It's quite difficult actually as the user, because you would not be able to prove if you're not building your own AI model. Yeah. Which in most cases you are not. It's going to be reliant on some of the bigger models out there, which have been trained on a vast amount of data. And simply you, as a ordinary user, you won't know what data was trained on.
Let's talk about the role of human creativity then. Like, what is that really? What defines creativity? Like, what are the aspects?
It's important actually to explain a bit about copyright.
Okay.
So copyright protection intellectual property in general is basically often split out into copyright, trademark, patents, registered design, and trade secrets. Yeah. So focusing on often this area relates to copyright. So for copyright, actually, if you were to get a piece of paper and you were to write a few words or draw a picture, copyright already subsides. You don't need a separate registration for you to get copyright protection. And an idea itself is not copyrightable. So take an example of a recipe. You could write up a recipe and you would have copyright ownership of the step-by-step text of that recipe. But if someone was to take that recipe and cook a meal using that recipe, they would not be infringing your copyright. So the idea itself is not protected, but the expression of the idea is protected. If you and I were to independently go into a room and we did not know each other, we were not copying each other, and we just by coincidence drew an image which looked very, very similar, both of us would actually have copyright ownership in that image, and we would not be infringing each other's copyright, even if it turned out to be identical. But if you drew something, I looked at it, and then I drew something that was very similar, then in that case, you would have a much larger chance of claiming that I infringed your copyright because I basically copied your work, or my work is a derivative work from your work.
If AI creates something, if it varies it enough, it's hard to protect. If it comes up with its own thing and it's different enough, then...
Yes. I think the issue in that case would be whether, if it's so different, even if it's actually originally based on some copyrightable work, would the original owner be even able to prove that this was a derivative work or a copy of it?
In the creation process, what steps should people take? Should they be so protective of not only their unique idea, but also how it is expressed until basically the very last moment as much as possible? Because if it's any kind of prototype phase, then someone could probably take that idea and run with it.
Whether in the age of AI or even before AI, to often protect your copyright. Let's say in the creative industry. As an example, if you were to have a final image of an artwork, and let's say this creative process took 10 years. and someone just before your launch was able to release something very similar, how are you able to show that they copied your works? So it's important that you document and keep your tenure of creative process, as opposed to, okay, you have a draft, you throw it away. Like actually those drafts are important to show that where your idea came from.
Well, then would the other person have to document that as well?
Yes.
Should they have iterations?
So let's say as an example, if you did a script,
it
took 10 years in the making, right?
Yeah.
And then someone secretly got a hold of it, your almost complete work, and you did not keep records of your creative process. You just have the final script. And they have actually documented that since last year, they came up with this idea, and they would then make a claim against you, saying actually, well, they started it last year and you have nothing to prove. And they would say that you're copying them.
Well, yeah, if they can prove their timeline, then, all bets are off, basically. Okay. Okay.
So there are several ways to, how do you show it's 10 years ago that you started, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some people would, nowadays, a simple method could be send a draft with timestamp to, let's say, your Gmail.
Yeah.
Or in the old days, it's often called like a poor man's copyright protection, is they would have whatever they created, they seal it up and they put it in sealed envelope and they literally go to the post office and post it to themselves. So there's a timestamp from the post office.
Are creators like still doing that? Do you know people that do that still, or I guess the Gmail probably
in the postal, but even on blockchain nowadays, it is possible to use blockchain to have a timestamp. It's basically you need a record, a third-party independent record on this document was actually in existence at that time, as opposed to you saying it existed 10 years ago.
I mean, how do we know if a large language model, for example, is scraping or taking ideas? Well, I mean, it's essentially it has to be based off of something.
Yep.
So
there are a lot of I think these would be landmark legal decisions happening in the US and in the UK.
Yeah.
Where let's say a lot of like stock photos companies.
Yeah.
Or like the Financial Times.
Yeah.
Like they are making, as the plaintiff, commencing legal actions against these AI operators, saying that you trained your model on my data without authorization.
Yeah, which is happening. I mean, they're pretty much calling out these AI companies.
And then a lot of them are entering into settlements.
Well, but settlements are usually then they're just quiet about it. But what do you think the key takeaways are coming away from it? As long as they get some sort of compensation for basing it on their work, they're okay with it? Maybe there's royalties or...
For the content owners?
Yes.
I would say a lot of these settlements is that they're getting quite a big payout because you've trained it already. They can't really reverse it. Yeah. So it's really compensating by damages.
No, we're talking about, and probably like OpenAI, for example, it does have the funds likely to now retro all the data.
I think that, in a way, is how a lot of the startup tech community works. Is because everything is so new. I mean, by its nature, it's something that did not exist before. A lot of these tech, a lot of the startup business model is that you do it even if it's in the gray area, and if it becomes successful, you're ready to compensate.
These other companies that have, I mean, there's plenty of bots and agents out there. I mean, do they have to abide by what the precedent's been set, or are they abiding by, or is it a very gray area? Is there any kind of...
It's quite clear actually that if you're building a AI model, based on big data, the law is quite clear that you cannot train it on unauthorized material. If you train your big data model based on third-party IP, which you have to authorization, it's quite clear that you are in breach. The bigger issue is how would the third party know you trained it, or how could they prove that you trained it?
Well, and then if someone's monetizing that work as well, then it becomes a bigger issue.
That's a big issue, even if there is an infringement.
Yeah.
So let's say if you have some copyrighted materials, your films.
Yeah.
If someone basically inputted that as data for training.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. But it's if you are able to prove that they used it, you would be able to claim compensation. But the difficulty is, how would you know?
Yeah, well, I think for smaller creators, it's hard too, because then you're going to incur a lot of legal fees and probably drag through court. as well. So what do you think about that? What do you think about all the challenges that this just kind of opens the box to all these challenges. What does that mean for going to the future of content, let's say, for example?
There's so much data out there.
Yeah.
And AI is getting better every day as we speak.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the creative process, I think, is still a very human skill.
Yeah.
Where you could come up with something which is so wacky that the AI is just unable to come up with. Or how you could put all the elements together. Because AI ultimately, the output seems that it's thinking like a human, but it's actually not a human.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain inputs in the world, like feelings, like compassion. They try to build that in, but it's not authentic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're actually able to build content that really touches the heart of people,
mm-hmm.
I think AI still has some way to go. I'm not sure whether it will eventually be able to do it in the future, but right now I think humans still have enough side in that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I agree. I've certainly tried to see what it would do. Give me a script with these elements and give as much detail as possible. And I didn't really see anything that was of value. It was pretty bland. But then I see stuff like I just tried to use Grok on a couple photos I had, and I'm like, holy cow, it is pretty impressive.
It is powerful.
So, yeah.
I would say going down the road, even creators, they will likely use AI as a tool, as a junior assistant,
mm-hmm.
to help them with the creative process. But you still need that human element in deciding, let's say even if you use AI, the AI could generate 10 different options for you.
Yeah.
100 different options really, really quickly. But which one do you choose ultimately to use? I think that requires a touch of the human touch.
Yeah, just working. No, you've handled so many cases throughout the years and have a vast experience. Just some of the stuff that has come up that's been pretty much what happens all the time, kind of thing. And what how is AI shaping that? Is it just more of that, or is it, how different is it?
I would say a lot of these companies would use AI.
Yeah.
So even in terms of resources, they may actually require less staff. So you could be, let's say, having a downsize of the creative team
mm-hmm.
because of AI. The reason being that the higher level creative work would still require human input, but the AI actually could assist in the more junior entry roles in terms of the creative process, because a lot of that level of work may not require so much of creativity.
In a lot of cases over the years, like how has AI changed the landscape of the cases, or has it, or maybe it hasn't?
I would say in terms of just from a legal perspective, the usage of AI actually does not really change the fundamentals of intellectual property laws or how companies work towards that. I think the bigger difference is how operationally companies now use AI to often replace or reduce the manpower of the more junior roles.
How strategic of a role do you play, for example, an intellectual property strategist and lawyer? What are the things that you have to advise clients on in terms of how they can protect themselves?
I think in terms of especially usage of AI,
yeah,
a lot of training that we give to clients is for them to understand what we just previously mentioned about on ownership and how you could use it. So one aspect actually that comes up quite a lot in both the creative industry, actually all our clients who use AI, you need to have an AI usage policy internally as to how you could use AI and what prompts, what information you're feeding into the AI system. Because depending on the terms and conditions and which model you use, there is a risk that data you input could then be absorbed and used by the AI system to train their system.
Yeah.
And if you're inputting confidential information, such as the scripts or something that's just not known to the public yet, if the system then used it to train their system, there is a risk a competitor, knowingly or not knowingly, would ask the AI question and somehow retrieve the information that you provided to the AI.
Let's get back to the international perspective. I think one of the challenges that I see, even just in terms of distribution, is all the different countries have different cultures and the way they infringe on intellectual property all the time. Like, what has your experience been like with that? Like, have you had chances to deal with countries in Southeast Asia or here or Singapore, things like that? Like, have there been any differences, or does it just come down to be similar?
I think it's ultimately down to the culture. I mean, there's one thing about the law, but whether you enforce it or like enforce your rights is a different matter. That could often be a commercial decision.
Yeah.
Because let's say as an example, if the law says you cannot do a certain thing, but everyone in practice does it, and nobody really enforces their rights. So if you were a company operating in that particular region, how much would you abide by the local laws? The fact is that you want to be law-abiding, but at the same time, if you put yourself to the strictest, highest standards, it becomes very difficult for you to compete against players who just don't obey the law.
Yeah.
So that comes down to how much you do. I mean, often these companies, they may be very willing to abide by the laws, but they want a fair playing ground as well. So they would actually very much prefer the copyright owners enforce their rights against everyone. But if only they had to abide and there are just bad actors who don't abide and therefore they have an upside by not abiding by the law, it makes it difficult for the big players.
Yeah, to enforce all that. Do they is it a lot of times just like they don't bother enforcing it just because it's just too tricky or messy, or?
Sometimes it's the difficulty in enforcement. Sometimes it may not even, it could be a PR issue. Sometimes it would actually be good for the original content owner. It seems counterintuitive, but sometimes by allowing the infringement action to happen at least for a while, it actually draws awareness to the content. Because more people would be watching the content, and then they could potentially monetize it some other way down the road when it becomes popular.
And I guess it sounds like as long as it becomes good, then people start taking notice and they have to do something about it. But if it's not so good, it doesn't matter.
I've been taking a very topical, so Squid Games.
Yeah. Okay.
Obviously Squid Games created by Netflix. It's clear that Netflix would have the copyright ownership to it. But then there would be different content creators, big or small, doing game shows or derivative content, parodies of content based on Squid Games.
Yeah.
Whether Netflix then decides to shut down everyone or ask for a license fee, or do they feel like, okay, it's still good for the brand because there's more awareness, people like to play things off it, and they kind of just let it be. That's really down to a commercial decision as opposed to the law, because it's quite clear that Netflix could take legal action against everyone, but they don't.
Right. Maybe they see it as like you said, it creates awareness and it's almost good to be copied in a way. What has it taken to understand all these different laws? For me, it sounds very difficult to know and understand the different law in the different countries and their perspective. And so what have you had to done? You have to go through extensive training, and there's like pretty much no one else like you. Or like, I think you're in a very like unique spot. So what has it taken to kind of get here to understand all those things?
I think it's really be curious. We're willing to learn, because I mean, when we started doing law many years ago, a lot of this tech didn't even exist. Yeah. So you have to keep learning. And it's not just learning the law, because as I was explaining, a lot of times we go back to the fundamental principles, and it's not a new law that we're looking into, it's very established law. The skill is how you apply the law to the new facts. So I would say being a tech lawyer is being able to understand the technology. Like, what is the technology doing? And once you could actually break that down, it becomes a lot clearer as to what the legal issues are. But if you don't understand, let's say if we're advising on AI, and if you did not have any knowledge of even how the AI works, not just as a user, but how it's trained, what data are inputted, then it'd be very difficult to break it down into the legal issues that you need to look at.
Do you have a tech background, or?
Yes, I have a degree in electrical engineering.
Oh, okay. I don't know, you're AA.
That was my first degree in the US.
What? Okay. Wait, and you got an MBA as well and a law degree.
Yes.
I mean,
I think that actually
where do
helps
you
a lot.
find time? No.
Be curious, right? Love to learn.
Okay. Well, I know this is not necessarily AI, but how do you must be very efficient about your time, essentially.
I think that is something I really enjoy, is being efficient. It may be the science background, being an engineer. I like to break things down into processes. So even in my practice of law, when I really first started out, even as a paralegal, one of the very first thing I did is I built out an Excel spreadsheet with code and buttons to help me manage which matter I should work on, when I should bring up the next matter. And I think that improves the efficiency a lot.
So you got very efficient and process-minded with technology. You're already coding your own laws, but you're coding your life as well.
Yeah.
When I was in New York, I thought about, I was an actuary. So you actually have to study to take tests, and I could not find the will or ambition to take these difficult level tests. So I passed a couple, but after that, so is that how do you?
I try to follow core principles.
Okay.
So there's two books that I really enjoy reading and I recommend to all my mentees.
Okay.
One is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That makes me really effective, just following the principles. And another one is Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People. Really helps in terms of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, breaking things into the 4 quadrants, deal with things that are urgent and important. And I would say I try to, if something comes up, I try to allocate a time on when I do it. Do I do it now, or do I schedule a time tomorrow, next week to do it? So I always know what the priorities are. I mean, in the days of now there's so much information bombarding you with the text, emails coming all the time. You really need to know what you're going to do next. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time just sitting there thinking, okay, what should I do next? But you have a system in place. It's very clear, okay, these are the 5 things I need to do next. And if something else comes in, I'll slot it in as to what priority comes in.
And you handle it all in stride, I find. You're always able to be on top of things. Well, I think let's go to a final question, which is I really want to hear a bold prediction about AI, given all the things you've seen and your experience. Let me have it.
I would say it's going to be something which is going to be happening faster than what most people would expect. The adoption of AI. I mean, looking back, it's not even 5 years, 2 years back. I don't think anyone 2 years ago would have predicted most who are just using AI in their daily life. So I think the next step is that it's going to be agentic AI, where the AI agents would be communicating with each other directly without even human intervention. So right now, even with the more powerful AI, you're going to ask it to do something and then it does it for you. So I would say not too far in the future, there would be agents, the AI agents, which does things proactively, even before you ask it. Even before you know it, it knows that you will be asking it to do this. And with the implementation of robotics as well, it would not just be the online world. It could be it's going to drive the car right next. When you go shopping, the AI robot would be following you around. As cost lowers as well, I would say everyone, especially in the developed countries, they would have their own personal robots.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, having my own personal robot. I mean, in Hong Kong, people have helpers, and I can't even handle that. So having a robot might be.
It may be even better, right? Because then you don't feel the intrusion of another human being.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about a robot seeing me in my boxers.
That could actually be a scary thing. If it's recording everything,
yeah,
one day it decides to release it online.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you kind of answered what teenagers should be doing, because I think you have that type of background. So I don't want to ask you that question. What I want to ask you is, what should companies be doing?
You need to embrace AI. It's not something where any individual company can say, oh, I don't like AI, I'm not going to use it. This is something even among lawyers, if we speak, especially to some more, I'll say, more senior lawyers, where they're reaching their retirement age soon, they may be like, oh, it's something that you young guys would use. I'm not going to bother learning it. But with both an individual, teenagers, or companies, if you're not going to adopt AI, you're going to become obsolete and you'll be replaced by companies and individuals who do. So it's not a choice. You have to do it.
What would be, it could be one, it could be two things that you would do for Hong Kong's education system?
That's a big question. I would really say adoption of AI. It's because a lot, especially the traditional education system, students are trained to absorb knowledge, but no matter how much knowledge an individual can internalize, an AI will have all that knowledge at its fingertips. So the education system needs to change into teaching students possibly how to use AI, how you could excel in things which AI are not good at, such as the interpersonal skills, compassionate. I think it's the human interaction is something that's the thing that differentiates humans and AI. It's the human interaction. So especially with work from home during COVID, a lot of people just thought for a while, yeah, everyone could just work from home, everyone's efficient. But you see people actually still prefer to go back to the office. It's that human touch. Like you would still rather watch a live show as opposed to watching a high definition recording or live stream online, because you want that. Being humans, you want that human interaction. And it's something we want to train the next generation to be good at.
At what age would you say that should they start? How early?
I'd say starting from kindergarten.
Really? Wow. Let me ask you more then. How would you introduce a 5-year-old to AI? On the iPad, or like get them started on a ChatGPT, or in this case maybe it's Poe?
I think it's very likely they already do use AI to ask questions. So my kids, I give them access to a shared POE account to access. And it's quite interesting because of the shared account, I could see what they're asking. And it actually helps the parent as well to see, oh, okay, I never thought that they're curious in certain things. There may be things that they might not want to even ask the parent. So to share, like my daughter would randomly ask, oh, my ankle hurts. Like, should I tell the teacher? Or like my brother's crying and I'm not happy. What should I do? Like there are things which they may not necessarily talk to a parent about.
Oh, interesting. Like a mental health issue or something like that too. Something that they...
Or it could be like, oh, I don't want to do PE class. Could I say my ankle hurts?
How to deal with just normal human interactions. And
the AI would say, actually, you shouldn't lie. So you should. So I think there could be different models of AI which could be tailored for these. But children or anyone, even adults, have a limited attention span. It's not just whether they have the time. It's you can only focus and learn for so long before your brain gets tired. So it's actually much better if you could have a very strong AI which could teach your kids or yourself in a way that's most effective. So you could, I would say, personalized learning. Actually, I would say with AI, you could actually have personalized learning for children, for adults, because people learn best in different ways. And with the traditional education system, there's a teacher in front and they're going to be teaching all 30 kids in the same way. But I'm sure kids would learn at a faster, slower rate or have difficulties in certain areas, which a personalized AI education system could help them a lot. We don't want to have an education system where you're just going to train identical individuals to be the same. It's really how to bring out the best in each of them. Not everyone's going to be good at math. Not everyone's going to be good at science. Not everyone's going to be a lawyer or doctor. But similarly, they could be very creative. Someone could be a very good dancer. Someone could be a very good script writer. And the traditional education system does not cater for those type of roles, especially, at least not in the early stage of their education.
I wanted to ask you, and this just came through talking about education and adoption of AI, but can one utilize their search and creation history using AI as a track record for the creation of their IP?
I would say yes. But obviously whether you have a good record of it because it's not your system. And if 5 years down the road, whether the AI system actually still kept that record is a different issue.
I mean, if you took, for example, screenshots of what you'd
A screenshot, then it's not, the screenshot could be altered.
Oh. So it's not a tried and true kind of
I would say it would definitely
benchmark.
help in the legal case, but it's not, as you said, it's not tested in court.
Yeah, I mean, because I noticed that in some certain apps, it'll record your bot history and then you have it there and you're logged in.
It definitely helps.
In that case, okay. But it's not as concrete.
It's not tested in court. So being a lawyer, I would say there's always the risk.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining me and sharing all this information. I know it's a huge topic. I know it's blurry, but I know you're at the top of the game and seeing all the stuff on the ground as well as advising various clients. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your invitation.
So I want to quickly thank our sponsor, Sideshow Tea. It's awesome, single origin, sparkling tea. Cheers.
Cheers.